Hey everybody, welcome to ClemcastIRL, and I am so super excited that you're here today, and I'm so super excited to talk with somebody that everybody needs to know about. Some of you do, some of you don't, so this is your lucky day. And this is a friend of mine I met in 2015 on the festival circuit going through Colorado and through New Mexico. And we were all kind of happily romping along the same trail and path on our way to have a culminative party in Santa Fe called Unify Fest, which was super just like out of this world. And along that way, I was introduced by a friend of mine, Yahira Lobos, to this gentleman here, Ashton Robertson, better known as Spaceship Earth, and he is on all platforms. I follow on Bandcamp because I'm a little old school. But how's it going?
It's going really good. I'm super excited to be on here, and I love the remembrance of the initial meetings. And wow,
We met in a cornfield in the dark under the
right,
temperature chest sky.
shamanic boom. Yeah, that was absolutely incredible. Those were like my some of my first shows.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't think I had ever been at a show or a festival or a gathering where there were like hogs and
neither.
that. I remember walking along in the dark and being like, what is that? What do I hear? And then going, oh, it's like farm animals. This is wild. Like they were partying too. Everybody was
On a
having
literal farm. It was so crazy. Yeah.
it was awesome. And do you remember that school bus? Everybody was like standing on the school bus taking sunset pictures, and I don't know. Anyway,
Only a little bit.
yeah, it was. I can specifically remember going to your set and dancing with Yahira and
Yes.
just being like, whoa, like I need to hear more of this music. I want to say, I don't know if I had listened to much prior, but I definitely did after.
Yeah, I remember you guys dancing up front and like making the whole show so much more fun for me. I was like, so new to the scene and so new to my project. I didn't know if, anyone, how people would feel about it. And I was, just getting started. So it was like such a encouragement for me, honestly.
Yeah, I've noticed as far as like a more electronic experience, it's sort of a signature of my own that I like the why can't I think of the word, the collaboration or the mix, between where
Yeah.
it's not only electronic, and the creator is also including and incorporating the tactile old school instruments along with the whole amazing electronic experience. And I've always geared toward that without really realizing it, but I see it now when I look back at like every electronic or electronica type of artist that I am attracted to. There's always going to be that mix, that blend.
100%. I'm very similar, and it's like I've noticed even the ones that don't have live instruments for me, it's like I come to find out that they're, playing keyboard in the studio. They're, it's like they're making the melodies and, the rhythms and stuff themselves. And it's, they're musicians.
Yeah, exactly. There's more to it than there's other experiences, and then there's ones that have more layers like that. And I believe that might be the case with Kali Scintilla, who was one of the first more electronic musicians that I was like, ooh, I really like this,
Yeah.
and also entheogenic.
Yeah.
I like some of the more old school stuff, and I kind of get stuck. I will admit, I do get stuck. I like hear the one thing and then nothing kind of tops it for me. But sometimes something will top it for me, and then I'm on to the next. But it's like I will gravitate back like a moth to a flame, back to the one that like just tugged my heart.
Oh, I feel like, you know, it's hard to match those specific artists, and those those genres are kind of, I would say, stagnant right now specifically. You know, it's like things have leaned more into like the heavy dubstep, you know, or there's just jam bands, you know, and there's not too many artists like me, so it's
Well, you have a completely specific flair. Like I
yeah,
couldn't really compare you to anyone.
yeah,
Truthfully, just I mean, the first time I listened to Interdimensional Passport,
yeah.
I'm like, I've listened to this audiobook like like 100 times or something. So it was just like immediate. I was home immediately, and that happens with me with musicians. Like there's something where they hit home, and it's like when you're, especially if you're kind of clairaudient too, which I know you are, you like they'll something in there will be like, oh, you don't might not even recognize it. Oh, it's something from, you know, a 3-year-old memory you have or something. But it's like, nope, they get you, they hook you, and you can't explain it. And you couldn't explain it to somebody if they're like, why do you like this? I couldn't tell you. Why do you like this one more than that one? I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. Do you like this? I appreciate it. Are you going to put it on again? Never. Do you know, what about this one? I will listen to it about 47 times today, probably. And when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll be dreaming about it and I'll be like, why did I do this to myself? I might have made myself sick. Like that's,
Right.
I'm an extremist when it comes to,
Wow.
but
Yeah, I feel that too.
I played your music for my bestie when he visited for Unify Fest, and he was just like, he's like, who needs drugs with this? Like this is
I love that. You know, it's like there's some people who make music that's only good on, you know, psychedelics or drugs or something. And, you know, I hope that my music inspires people to not have to take them. Not that I want it to be just only trippy music or whatever, but I just love that sentiment. And like the whole Pleiadian channeling thing, it's like I was the same. I had listened to it 100 times on my own, and I was like, oh, like I want to find ways to bring this to a wider audience. You know, it's like on SoundCloud I have all the links to the audiobook and all that, like in hopes people will
yeah.
drop into that like really deep powerful message that, you know, Barbara Marciniak has really tapped into. And it's a book I still sample to this day, of like, you know, like just little here and there, trying to bring it back, like just kind of keep that thread throughout like my project. You know, I don't know. I love the Pleiadians and their information so
Well,
much.
and specifically her, like,
Exactly.
she's been telling us about these like downloads since the 80s. And one of my friends who I met, I was 17 and she was 18 at the time, and we both worked at Carl's Jr. I was going
Wow.
to business school, because I won't even go into that, but I was going to business school, and we didn't know each other. We were passing through those doors, you know, those restaurant doors that do this. And we
Yeah.
were both singing a Megadeth song, like at the same lyric at the same time. And we stopped and looked at each other. And we're just like, friends. Yeah. Okay. And she tried to turn me on to them when I was like 17. And I was like, cool. Yeah. So back to air guitar. Like I was not ready. I wasn't ready.
Right, right.
And but later on I totally was. And I mean, I would be in my room spinning, you know, 33 times and doing the practices and the whole deal, you know. And yeah, auras up, red, green, or what did she, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, blue, purple, you know. And
Yeah.
but I still get like, I think I just got a notification today from Bold, whatever it's called, Bold Connections. So I still get the emails with the latest recordings. So she's still doing the new moon and full moon channeling.
Okay, wow.
And yeah, so I don't buy every single one of them. You do have to buy it. It's $5. It's not a big deal. But it's always priceless. Always priceless information. And especially when things, you know, feel like they're just like out of control. It's really good to hear that channeling and hear it from such a different perspective than the one that you're going to most widely see, you know, being earthlings, you know.
Exactly. Wow, that's I didn't know that she still did stuff like that, so that's good to know. I'll tap in. I'm like reminded like this summer I played this festival in Kentucky called Playthink Festival, and I was walking back to my cabin. There's an artist cabin, and there was this kid tying his shoe just at the same time that I was getting to the door, and it's like maybe if he didn't tie his shoe, maybe I wouldn't have met him. But his artist name is Pleiadian Dream.
Oh, wow.
Maybe it's Pleiadian Dreams. I have the card, but we like somehow got in. Well, I think he just told me that his artist name, and I was like, oh wow, like I've been sampling the Pleiadians, and we had hours discussions about them through that weekend, and he's such a beautiful soul. I'll send you their page and music. um,
Wonderful.
and it just continues to be this like weaving synchronicity in my life, just it's so magical. Honestly, it defies logic. And even before I heard or like I started to tap into like my own connection to the Pleiades, I was seeing the word, seeing the books. It was like, what is this word I keep seeing? And then yeah, it continues to be this theme.
Yeah, there's people that'll just magically appear in your life, and they will know, and you'll know, and they'll know that you know, and you'll know
Yeah.
that you know, and it's like, okay. And it's not, it's few and far between. I mean, even going to, big festivals with thousands of people or whatever, few and far between that you'll actually, run into one of these people. But boy, do you
Exactly.
recognize each other when you do. And I remember Yahira telling me one time we were like driving, and she was in the passenger seat. She was looking at me and she's like, "You are not from here. You're not from here." And I was just like, woo. I was like listening to music and kind of just like driving, and there was just air, like we were out in the middle of nowhere, and it was just hilarious. I was laughing. I'm like, well, neither are you, you know. But so tell me a little bit about the festival experiences. I mean, this was exciting because when was the last time you had gone out and played, like kind of on a circuit like that prior to this last time? Was it years?
Pre-COVID,
Yeah.
2019 for sure.
Wow.
So yeah, COVID happens, and then
That made it extremely hard for artists to continue to,
right.
experience their livelihood, and they had to get very, very creative playing online for audiences.
Right. Yeah, I did a
Wow.
lot of live streaming, and then yeah, the vaccine started, and the vaccine injured me, so I lost my ability to play music and or walk for 17 months.
Wow.
Then yeah, I played my first show is a festival in Michigan called Big Fam Festival.
Wow.
Highly recommended. Beautiful vibes, nice, immaculate art galleries, multi-genre event. Um, and then this summer, well, oh, then it was like I went to Indiana and
You
played
had a big fam reunion after
literally.
literally kind of coming back from an experience that almost probably felt like it was going to take you into the non-physical experience at that point. And somehow,
Yeah,
like, you literally came across the other side. I was rooting for you, and I could see what you were going through, and that was extreme, and so, and then your first event is like big fam reunion.
exactly. So well put. Because it felt, I mean, it felt like an underworld, like I don't even really want to call it shamanic experience, because a lot of it was so painful and like
Mm.
not spiritual. But the
Well, it probably
alchemization.
felt very alien, because I know even just having the whatever it is, because I've had every kind of flu in my life. I had the really bad one in the 70s when I was a little kid, and I think that almost took me off the planet. But when I finally was exposed to the a second round of whatever that is, it felt so alien. Like there was something going on in my body that was not of any kind of origin that I've ever experienced. And I knew, you know, very intuitively, like there's something moving through me that we're not friends. Like this thing is invading, and it's not the same sort of a biological organism invasion that we have experienced again and again and again, being these bacterial biological beings here in this like whole micro whatever macro whatever we are experiencing. As this was never before had I felt anything so like foreign and alien going on inside my body. So I can't even imagine what you were dealing with had to feel that way too. Like you're going through your spiritual aspects of it, but you're probably like, what in TF is happening, you know?
Yeah, very sci-fi. It felt similar, very like just so beyond the scope of my reference points of what I've experienced in any other sickness. Just the
Wow.
feelings in my body, like sci-fi level. Yeah.
Black Mirror.
Yep, exactly. And but it, you know, things like that take you so deep into yourself. Like I was so inward for so long. I really, you know, was able to like see myself fully and my life and you know, kind of clear out everything that wasn't serving me and then just like align with like only things that serve me from like people, food, places, environments, you know, music, media, everything.
You
You know,
alchemize the experience into a blessing.
exactly. And you know, it's like just around now, I'm like starting to like have like just these normal experiences, but they feel so much more powerful. And I'm so grateful. And I'm starting to like, you know, stabilize now. And it feels so full circle to be having this conversation with you of like, you know, right when I started, and then, you know, it just feels like I'm starting again. So it's very powerful. And the starseed thing like always kind of comes through stronger again. And yeah, I just feel very blessed. Yeah, the festivals have been a big blessing as well. It was like I went down to Phases of the Moon Festival in Indiana, and Yaima was the headliner.
Oh, I
And
love Pepper Proud.
yeah, same. It was so like they played this new song that was about rebirth, and it
Ooh,
wasn't
I'm
even
getting chills
released.
and I haven't even heard it.
Yeah, I think let me find
It's like giving me chills though. I just already know.
it's one of the greatest songs. Let me see. I know it's new. It's
My
yeah,
favorite.
it's called Rebirth.
My favorite of hers, which how do you pick a favorite? But it's just the one that just like has always stuck with me over and above everything else, because like my first experiences of Yaima were in person in like a little tent, you know, at night with a fire and at a festival. And but there's a YouTube video of her singing a song called, I think it's called Rise Again, and
Yeah.
she's sitting by a campfire and she's just singing it, and you can see the people in the background, they're just like transforming. And like I just get the chills every time I see and hear that one. So anytime if somebody I know doesn't know about Yaima, that is like the first thing I give them, and then I go, okay, now go down a rabbit hole.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And I love that name Rise Again. And then the one for me, it's Rebirth. It's like
Yes.
they're it's like the same theme, you know, and I was just standing like in front of the stage, like they were like singing my whole journey into form. And I was like, you know, beginning this new journey. And here I am a year later. You know, I'm kind of playing all over the country now, and I'm like finishing my next album, and feeling really good. So,
Wow, that's amazing. Amazing,
yep.
amazing, 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 amazing. Okay, so let's see. So you've got obviously you've got a bunch of, well, you have, how many LPs do you have? Just the one?
There's Interdimensional Passport, and then my album
Oh,
Soul
yeah. Okay. And
out
then
in 2019.
EPs, lots of singles.
Yeah.
What are you the most excited about right now that is more recent and current?
I mean, I'm excited about every song I've released in the last year, like 2023 for sure. My EP last year, Being Reborn, I like it. It's exciting. I like wrote all of it like on my computer speakers. Like I was so sensitive to sound, I couldn't
Mhm.
even make music properly. So like to me, it feels like a marker point. And then like, I mean, I love that music, but everything that came out after that felt like I was like actually getting back into the groove. Maybe the song "The Future," like that one's, about like creating, a sustainable world.
Mhm.
Sky People, that one's really
Yeah, it looks like
fun.
the Venus Project sort of on the cover.
Literally, yep. It's
Yeah.
it's Jock Fresco and sampled in that one. And then
Oh, nice.
yep, yep,
I'm glad you said so because I wouldn't have been able to put it two and two together there.
yep. Yeah, I mean, any of the new stuff is really fun for me. And then I'm finishing up my album right now, which I'm like just starting to maybe get the name of. But it'll be either 10 or 11 songs. I have 11 for it. So I think it'll probably be 11.
I think it's gonna be 11.
There we go. There we go.
Amazing. That is so exciting. So, while I'm thinking of it, and we'll say it again later, but for sure, Spaceship Earth on Bandcamp, and Spaceship's one word, Earth is the second word, Bandcamp, and then you're on all the streaming platforms, so people
Yep,
can find you. Also on Instagram.
totally. Yep.
So, and then anywhere else that is a really good place for people to find, everything.
Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, SoundCloud, Bandcamp. Those are the best places for sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I want to send a little shout out to everybody who's tuning in too. This is a prime example of an independent artist, somebody who's passionate, somebody who's actually takes action on their passion, on their intuitions, on their desire and their ping to create beauty, art, music, and experiences in the world. And Ashton is one of many. And so look into people like Spaceship Earth, whoever it is that you are really into. I interviewed my friend Caroline Coto. Um, remember on Bandcamp on there's every so many Fridays. Is it like two per month that they do or something like that? They just did it. And I bought some of your music on Bandcamp
Oh
Friday.
my.
Yeah, because it makes a big difference. And I know that, for artists, that's not the way that you really get to make money anymore by even just selling your music. So every little bit of support really does help. So please, you probably could go on YouTube and find that somebody uploaded some of Ashton's music, but instead, why don't you go and actually hear? He's offering you music for free. He's offering you music for purchase it at whatever amount you'd like, and or dirt cheap. So go for it and support. Like, you can't even go to a store and buy something for the amount of money that you could go and get some music and have this experience with you forever now. You get to download it, keep it. So everybody, please go support your artists, and especially on a day like a Bandcamp Friday, because I don't know that you still get to keep all the revenue. There's probably still some fees, but you get to keep way more on Bandcamp Friday.
Yeah, I mean, Bandcamp, I mean, streaming royalties are very low. So the more, I mean, one download purchase on Bandcamp will pay for, like 1,000, 10,000 streams or whatever, So
Wow.
Bandcamp's one of the most important sources of streaming right now on the internet. It's so important for all the musicians out there. And you said it very eloquently, like, support people who are following their passions, and, don't be scared to follow your own passion. Like, I just hope to inspire people to like, it can be a hobby. It doesn't have to be a career. It's like, it's so fulfilling and nourishing for me. To share my art, even just online, but like especially on the stage, it's so nourishing. It
Yes.
fills you up, and there's not many other things that do that, and it's so worth it. It's just,
Well,
yeah.
it's nourishing. I mean, I don't remember who was the originator of this comment or where I first heard it because it was so long ago, but it was something like all anger or anger is unexpressed creativity. Like everybody's anger and everybody's like way that they lash out at the world, they things that don't make sense, road rage and whatever else, where it's just like extreme reactions to not a big deal. that
Yeah.
that is people who haven't found a way to express their creativity, so it's all stuck inside of them and it's going to come out somehow, and that's one of the most explosive ways for it to come out, but it's not the healthiest way. So
Yeah.
be creative, like I make the dumbest stuff. Like this guy told me the other day, because I had this idea to do like a collective purchase for an independent artist and do it on Bandcamp Friday, so that they'll wake up in the morning and be like, why these people pay like $500 for this when it's only $2, just to like surprise this person and make them feel happy. And they have enough supporters, it should have worked. And one of the comments was, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I was like, well, you haven't gone to my page and really looked at all my memes, because I've made way dumber things than this, so go check it out. But it's like I don't know where the disconnect is. Like it's not like people are a charity case. It's like, no, this is their work.
Exactly.
It's not like some guy in a polo and some Dickies and a belt is writing you a paycheck every Friday. This is your work. And how do you sustain yourself to continue to do your work the same as everyone else? Well, by people supporting what you do. So if you like it, support it. It's simple as that.
100%,
Yeah.
especially musicians nowadays, it's like they have to pretty much exclusively rely on live shows. So Bandcamp is like, the portal to support musicians. And yeah, that's especially on Bandcamp Friday. It's so beautiful and important right now, for all of us. And
When are you booking some live shows in California? That's where I'm at.
so I'm really wanting to this winter. It's one of my big goals. I just got connected to some people in LA, and San Diego. Um, so I will definitely let you know about that. It's definitely in the works. I don't fully know yet, but that's definitely like on the um in progress kind of things happening. I miss the West Coast so much. So
I'll be there to support, even if it's just your set.
yeah.
I'm a little on the ultra sensitive side, so like there's one musician I drag myself out of my house for
Yeah.
anymore. But I was that person who was, at every show growing up. And then I got away from that whole scene that I grew up in, like the rock and then the metal and
Yeah.
then the death metal scene, and then I got out of that scene completely and
Yeah.
was raising children, and then I got into the festival scene, but it was only because I was working. It
Right.
wasn't like I was like this festival romping,
Right.
festival person. It was like, no, I always had a job to do, but it was amazing. It like opened my eyes to this whole new world I'd never experienced. And all of this music and all of these creative people, like just building a little village out of nothing.
Yep.
That's pretty just, it's like, wow, it changes you. They're life-changing experiences for sure. And the fact that, like, when I had been in the music scene prior to that, it was, people who were drunk, people who were smoking, and I got to a point where I was too sensitive to be around it.
Yeah.
But the festival scene, there's pockets of like sobriety, or people who are only, intentionally, utilizing plant medicines, and it's not, very low level of any kind of belligerence or disrespect happening, where people are actually creating a community, and you don't get
True.
that at a concert necessarily.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think one festival that you might want to look into is High Vibe Fest. It's out in California. That could be one to look into for sure. I just had a release on High Vibe Records, just like a few weeks ago. A song called Hourglass.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that one is on High Vibe Records, and they have their own festival. That's
Wow.
way, it's like very spiritual and very like multi-genre, full spectrum. They have lots of workshops and like spiritual leaders and yeah, that's definitely one to look into on the West
I
Coast.
will. Thank
Yeah.
you. I will
Yep,
look into
definitely.
see how I
Yeah.
can be involved. Yeah, I've only gone to a couple where I wasn't working and I just literally felt lost. Like I was just like, why am I, what am I doing here?
Right.
Just because it was different than what I was used to. I'd been to so many,
Totally.
but I always had a job, And then when
Yeah.
I was just kind of wandering around, I was like, wow, like it was just a totally different experience. It was still good. It was still good, just a totally
Yeah,
different experience.
it is. Yeah.
I
No,
think
it's like I rarely go to a festival where I'm not playing, and I know what you're saying. It's like, what do I do with my hands? I don't, I don't know.
yeah, I think the last one I was at was it was very much a family reunion vibe though, was Oregon Eclipse.
Oh, wow, incredible.
Yeah, that was really cool. And it was like a family reunion. It was like because you would see people from Lucidity, from Lightning in a Bottle, from Bhakti Fest and Shakti Fest and Joshua Tree Music Festival and like all over, like from Arise, from Colorado. Like there were people from everywhere that went to this one festival. And I don't think they expected as many people to come as did. I think there were ended up being about 30,000 people there, and they were prepared for about 10,000 people.
Wow. Okay, cool.
It was like, woo, but everyone wanted to see that
Many, yeah.
eclipse. So speaking of, there's one coming up.
Yep, Texas Eclipse. I've applied. I don't know if I'm gonna be playing, but I've applied for sure, and they've reached back out to said they'll let me know for sure.
Nice.
Um, but either way,
And
it's
there's an eclipse this month, a solar eclipse.
you know what day that is?
On the 14th.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah, this is the
I'm playing in just outside of Boston, and it's spelled Worcester,
oh yeah,
Massachusetts.
yeah, yeah. I've heard of that place.
But it's like Worcester is how they pronounce it. Um, I'm still trying to figure that out, but it's like
Like
that's
Alan,
interesting. Yep.
you gotta
Yeah,
sit,
it's
you
always
gotta sit down
interesting.
with
Like
Lego.
I've had so many shows where I play right on the eclipse. Like
Whoa.
unplanned, like booked 6 months in advance without thinking. And then like I had this show in Detroit where I played, it was for an eclipse party, and then like my computer wouldn't work. So my set got pushed back, and then I ended up playing when the eclipse, it like right the moon came out and the eclipse happened right during my set. And it was like,
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know how that happened, but just
Well,
synchronicity.
I don't know what you're doing this month, but of course, October, it's like an exciting month. And, especially anybody who's into like Halloween and just all the fun of October. But we have a Friday the 13th, and then
Yep.
there's a full solar eclipse happening the 14th. And then we have like a full moon lunar eclipse happening on Halloween weekend.
Oh wow, perfect.
Yeah. So go have some fun.
Wow. Yeah, I have shows both those weekends.
Yay. That's amazing. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, so other than obviously the Pleiadians, tell me a little bit more about what actually inspires, like are there specific things that you find end up inspiring you? Is it mostly like your life experiences, or are there certain like topics or certain things that you notice more often than not will spark you into like creative mode where it's like, ooh, I hear something, I see something, I'm gonna put this all together and make it a tangible experience for everyone else too.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a lot of different things. I think nature really inspires me from like Earth to outer space. Like all nature really inspires me a lot. But it can also be like some sort of teacher, a spiritual teacher, some sort of like philosophical teaching. It can be scientific information. Um,
Something that kind of blows your mind, huh?
yeah, and then sometimes it can just be music. It can just be other music, an idea that comes to me. And it's honestly, it's like sometimes it's just nothing. It's just like I'm just always like in that flow state and then just creating. And sometimes the messages come at the end. Sometimes, the theme is like there in the beginning. So it's a bit of both, but it's I'm inspired by, yeah, a whole range of different things. A
That's
lot of times, yeah,
very cool. And it's
yeah,
evident when, when people start to listen to what you have to offer, they're going to be able to pick that up. Because there are artists that it's like very apparent that, whether it's like many albums or just one or two, it's like all nature inspired, or all, what I mean, like trees. This one is trees, or
right,
but it's like, no, what you're saying, it's just like sort of like, yeah, the all that is what inspires me. And it's kind of like, yeah, hence Spaceship Earth, hence the what you do, which is just like super unique. So
100%. It's a very full spectrum thing, but it can be the future, it can be the ancient past, it can be, things that are happening in our present. It can be kind of all over the place. But I think like seeking inspiration can be key. Like if you're feeling uninspired, like go seek inspiration and you'll be surprised like what comes out of you. That's really helpful for me, is like having that like be a practice where you're like seeking inspiration and going out and trying to find something to inspire yourself with, or just going on a walk, like
change of
looking
scenery.
exactly, change your environment, change your scenery, get your mind out of the box of your music studio or whatever it is. And yeah, I don't
we
know.
can we can
Yeah,
program our supercomputers like when we wake up, and we can be like, today I fully expect to be inspired. I fully expect to be awed. I fully expect to notice all of
exactly.
the miracles that are happening around me. Because there's some days where it's like we're very dense, and like nothing's penetrating, a
Yeah.
sort of a fog we're in, and it's just like blah blah, and it's almost like our energy is expecting everything to be blah, and everyone to be annoying, and everything to be an issue everywhere you go. And it's like, no, we get to program that when we wake up in the morning and go, I'm gonna expect the opposite experience of that. But sometimes we have to go there. It's like it's a balancing act.
No, I find like your morning routine is so key to setting the tone of your day and like what comes to you, what you attract. Having a morning practice for me is like foundational to my how my day goes, creativity, how I go in the studio. And then at the same time, I found like if you're in creation mode and it's not going well, I found just keep going is the best tactic. Like it's it's like mining for gold. It's you just got to keep going and you'll get there. It's not always just going to happen in the first 30 seconds. It might happen an hour or 2 hours into it and then you're like, oh, okay, now I have something to work with. But it's all about not giving up and just like being like persistent in your approach of just keep going and not like having, just being confident and then not like focusing so much on what you come up with at first as like, a judgment. You're like, oh, okay, this sucks. Uh, and it's like it's always going to like just keep going. And that's it's like it's like warming up on my guitar. It's like the first few minutes I'm not as good, and then I'm
Yeah.
warmed up, and then it's just fluid and the good gold comes out of me naturally. I
Yes.
mean, it's like a muscle. It's like a sport almost. You just got to keep practicing and you'll get better, and you stay persistent and on the path, and 100% good stuff's going to come out of you.
It's true. It's true. It is. It's like it's like a sport in that you're continually pushing yourself to your next level
Yeah.
of how much patience can I practice today? How much excellence can I notice in what I'm doing today? How much greater can I be at this moment in this particular activity? And it's true. It's like it really is. And it's like it's a personal feat in a way.
Yeah.
And yes, keep going. Those are the key words. People are always saying don't give up. And
Yeah,
I always say, how about say keep going? How
yep,
about ask for what you want versus what you don't?
exactly. That's so key. And yeah, I mean, like, I think having your mental faculties on point like that is so key as well. And like, for me, it's like having those spiritual practices of like being able to stay present and like still, it's like the more spaciousness I can create, the more like the universal creativity can flow through me. It's like, I think we rely on our minds too much for creativity. And it's like, it's kind of like a channeling is like the true essence of like timeless music. It's like if you're in a flow state and you're being present and open, like Alex Gray, the painter, he talks a lot about like like channeling universal consciousness, the same creativity that like has created the galaxies and all that is the same creativity that we can tap into. And I
Mhm.
think, if you are open like energetically to that, align yourself with that. And I think nature helps the most. Like going into nature aligns you, vibrationally with that universal creativity that like the creator has like embedded into nature. You're immersed in that like forest vibe, and then you go into the studio, which is funny because like the first album, Interdimensional Passport, I wrote that when I lived in Western Maryland in the mountains, and I would go hiking every day because I like happened to live there. And then like, my second album, I wasn't as close into nature, and like I feel that resonance with my first album more. And I've like consciously tried to tap back into that into my third album of like, what was the difference? And it was like my environment was so, I lived in like 100-acre forest, compared to like, living in this $200 apartment in the middle of the city, trying to like do my best, but like, still being
Right.
in a different space. And then like, allowing myself to tap into nature in this new album and like tap into, the universal consciousness as well.
We're bringing up two really important things, and one is like, yes, that the environment is extremely important to the way we're going to wind up expressing ourselves, and we're very influenced by environmentally by everything, right? But at the same time, you're also bringing up the fact that you're talking about like tapping into the universal consciousness and the fact that really there is no separation. So like you
Yeah.
talk about like a science thing, what is it? They say 99.999% of matter is empty space, right? Which means, oh, well, there's really no, like you're right here and I'm right
Yeah.
here. Like we're here, and so
Yeah.
even if you're in the small 200 square foot apartment or whatever, you still there's no there you can still exchange adamantine particles in that moment with that 100-acre wood, right? So you just like sit down and boom, it's there. And
Literally.
yeah, so
I
and
love that.
I think another thing that artists start to like, not so many, I don't think, really compare themselves to others and think that they suck because they're comparing themselves to others, but they compare themselves to different versions of themselves or to what they know they can do and it's not quite coming out. And again, we have to go, look at that weird science stuff too. Like, oh, okay, so when you get all the way down to splitting an atom, what is there? There's a spark, right? So at an atomic level, we're all just sparks. What is that spark? It's the divine spark of all creation, which is
100%.
you, which is me, which is Michael Jackson, which is Michael Jordan, which is every person that you think is greater than you. Actually, no, maybe they're greater at basketball, maybe they're greater at moonwalking,
Yeah.
but we are all the same divine spark. So hold no one above you. You can admire all day long, but never diminish. Admire without diminishing, admire to inspire. And so I think those things combined could really help like every creative person who has something they want to birth forth, but they're afraid to kind of step out of that fear.
I love that. And I think it's funny to bring up Michael Jordan because I always like just remember the story of like Michael Jordan didn't make his high school basketball team. He got cut. like he couldn't even, make the team. And, he turned into the greatest basketball player ever. So, it's
Yeah.
like that persistence and like the determination and the willingness and the like the effort,
Yes.
while honoring your body is like, I think almost more important than the talent. There's people who have like, sustained themselves in all fields just by like consistent long-term persistence over people who are the most talented. Or sometimes it's not even like sure, you might be talented about something or with something, but sometimes it's just how much you love something.
Exactly.
Like, find what you love, do what you love. And yeah, don't, like, the environment thing is so important, but also it's like you're saying, it's right here all around us. And I'm like reminded of this Eckhart Tolle quote where he's talking about like nature, like what is nature and all these different topics. And he's saying like the closest you can get to nature is your body. Like you can't get closer to nature than in your body than you can to a tree. It's
Right.
like you are nature,
Right.
and it's always there, even if you're, it's like Mandela, I can't remember his first name. He was in a prison for so long. Yep.
Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela was in a prison for so long, and he was still able to tap into this, not to say that, not to like bypass the suffering that people
Right.
experience, but it's like your environment doesn't always matter. It's like your state of being matters. Like Bashar says that. It's like your state of being matters, not your environment. But at the same time, it's if you can have both, that's, and for me, it's like just this week alone, I'm like, okay, how many plants can I bring into my music studio to like, like I have all these crystals and plants in here now. And it's like, oh, I feel I can like see trees right outside my window right now. It's so much. And like your background, it's like I just moved music studio. So it's like all my art and stuff isn't up, but it's like moving, like we moved my bedroom, like me and my girlfriend lived together, and we switched our bedroom to my music studio because it's a little bigger. And like I just got all of my stuff. So I'm like, oh, okay, how can I make this environment like a forest? Because I feel so nourished and creative, and that I was, thinking about that. And
You
it's like,
know,
how do you do both ultimately?
do you have a buy nothing group in your area on Facebook?
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Okay, so like where I live, it's called Buy Nothing, and then it's like you insert the name of the town you're in, right? Buy Nothing, whatever. You live in Oceanside, Buy Nothing Oceanside. If you live in Del Mar, Buy Nothing Del Mar. And usually there's a Facebook group, and you could put a little post, that says, does anybody have any plants that they need to rehome? Because people wind up with too many plants all the time in the Buy Nothing groups. I see people giving plants away. In one day for free, you could rehome so many plants into your studio. So it's something to look at.
Trying to do that.
Yeah, because you're helping somebody else make some space, and it's something that you want too. So there's, no reason to necessarily go out and have to buy something if you don't have to. But yeah, those are really great groups, and I recommend them for people who are moving and stuff. I just gave away like I helped my daughter clean her closet out on Monday, and there was like some stuff that came back to me, which was like really cool, some crystals and things that I've given her over the years, and she
Perfect.
was like, you can have them back. But there was like the whole bag of stuff, and so went to some girl who's 16 who really needed it, and so it was just like really nice to just be able to go give them all the stuff for free and have them be happy, and then have her be glad that it's out of her closet. So that's what that group's about, so check it out.
No,
But
that's incredible.
yeah, it's super helpful. It's super helpful. Like when we first moved here, I had gone from being in an RV for 3 years into moving into this apartment. So I didn't have anything. I had
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
No, nothing. No furniture, no nothing. And I mean, like I didn't even have a laundry basket. I didn't have a trash can. I didn't
Right.
have pots and pans, because I didn't really cook inside my RV. I was
Totally.
mostly a raw foodist. And so we went to the Buy Nothing group, and then to some other group, and just like put a post that we were moving in, and everything was just like free. Like all I had to do was go get it, and they were thanking me, like, thank you, we needed this out of here, so It's a nice exchange.
That's beautiful.
That's off topic and off
Yeah.
track. Let's see. Okay, so congratulations, by the way, for being in that space where you vibrationally attracted somebody who's a vibrational match for you, and the two of you can feel super happy together. And I love to see that. And I'm pretty psychic, and I'm like pretty old, and I can see right away with people. And I saw you two, and I was just like, okay, that is a vibrational match. That's what everybody thinks they're looking for, and they don't even know. Like,
100%.
yeah, so good for you both. That means you've both done whatever work it took to get you to this point, and I love it. So congratulations.
Both did. I'm very, very thankful. My girlfriend's name is Amelia Anya. She has her own like online business management
Oh, nice.
company.
Nice.
But she does it for like all like medicine people.
Oh,
So she's like running this online business and creating content for people who are, holding ayahuasca retreats or holding women groups or, creating dance somatic therapy sessions. And she does somatic dance movement therapy coaching as well, among a few other things. And yeah, she's
love
such a
that.
good person.
I need to
Yeah,
do more of that, truthfully,
me
myself.
too.
I don't I just get so like in certain zones, and then at the end of every day I'm like, well, I could have jumped up and down and just shook my arms more, like
Shaking. Shaking it regulates your nervous system. Shake as much as you can. Yep.
yes, shake. I have a rebounder, but it's like an orange velvet ottoman, and I just like have
Yeah.
trouble taking it apart and using it as a rebounder because I just like looking at it. It's so
Yeah.
cute. Like, but I really, as we get more into wintertime, I will use it more. Like right now, what I do is I just go make sure I go for at least like a 30-minute walk every day in my moccasins, so I'm completely grounded. And
Sure.
you know, that's my time that I make sure I give myself. But yeah, so is it Amelia? It's Anya, Anya.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I will look into her. So that's amazing. And then let's see. How about, do you want to give anybody, I mean, you've already been giving people a bunch of sage wisdom. Anything else that you can impart on people who are, just sort of following their own creative paths? I feel like you already kind of gave us a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, depending on your goals, there's a big variety of goals, but if you're really trying to get yourself out there, um, I would say, do your best to connect with your community and build connections and build genuine relationships and, you know, find like-minded people that get out of your house and just like nourish yourself that way, like nourish yourself through your community and like be inspired, and then also like create events with local people. I think that's like one of the best ways by far to like not only get yourself out there but like do it in a nourishing way, on like a full spectrum level. It's like art is not an isolated event, and I think the more you can like get out of your house, the better, like, and you'll feel more fulfilled, because it can be like disheartening, but like if you have your community to lean on and you're both supporting each other, then it's kind of a group like come up. It's so important, I think, to have community, and friends on the same wavelength. And obviously there's all these other marketing techniques, and there's all these other like practices you can do, but I think having genuine community and supporting your community is really the best. Yeah.
That's excellent advice. And I think that probably the thing that stops people the most is when they're going through, whatever difficulties they're going through. But hey, if you can go through what you went through and then still, maintain your connections and
Yep.
step back out when the time is right, then you wouldn't have really probably even been able to do as well as you did without still having your community, even if you were, somewhat isolated during your healing.
exactly, 1,000,000%. I mean, I would have made it for sure. Like, but part of me says like, oh, I wouldn't have made it without my community, but
It wouldn't have been the same.
it
That's
wouldn't
for
have been
sure.
close to the same. And I just felt so supported and carried through all of it. And I'm just so thankful for my friends and, my fans and my community. And I'm just like, it's like I'm just starting to feel normal. So it's like, it's so exciting. I feel like I'm starting over. Like part of me feels like, oh, like I'm so far from where I want to be, but I just remember like what's happened and like plus COVID. So it's
Right.
just like I'm just starting over and it feels like I'm just like starting for the first time. So I'm really, thankful, super excited about all my new music. Um, and yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah, it gives you the, even if it is, a challenge and it's tough and it's kind of like, well, I would never wish that even on my worst enemy in the
Yeah.
universe, but at the same time, it gives you something to reflect upon, and it really gives you a taste of how precious, every moment is. The past 3 years, I now know over 22 people. I kind of lost count because I was having a tough time with how I was processing the kind of
Yeah.
grief of the past 3 years. But like 22 people is where I stopped counting that are gone in a 3 year period of time. So
Yeah.
many so young too, including my very best friend. And so for me, coming out of the other side of that is like, live large. I,
Yeah.
I I never stop myself from doing something anymore. I don't care how I'm going to be perceived by someone else. I'm never going to intentionally create harm or cause harm, but I'm also not giving an S about what anyone thinks or feels about me genuinely expressing myself and being here, just being here, having this experience. Um, I didn't do it as well prior to, and with my bestie, he was this person who was just larger than life, and I wish I would have been more inspired to be like him even then. And it took him being gone to really push me to go, okay, why do I hold back? Why do I hide? Why do I ever shrink? And have to really do a lot of shadow work on all that, but boy, it pays off. And
Yep.
anybody and everybody who could tap into that and go, like, it's a hard, scary thing to take a step into the realm of, I'm actually here because I chose it. Nobody forced me, and the world's not happening to me. It's happening for me. And I
Yep.
really need to embrace all of this right now and stop blaming everything outside of me and stop seeing everything as so separate. That is a terrifying place to step into for somebody who has sheltered themselves for whatever reason, whether it was trauma or whatever that caused them to kind of do this. But once you can get there, even just a little by little by little, it's so liberating. And that is when your gifts start to shine through. And your gifts can be the simplest things in the world. It can be just smiling at certain people at certain times in the day and like changing the whole trajectory of the vibration that we share, the collective conscious vibration. Or it can be some great thing, that you're leaving behind someday and that, will be remembered for hundreds of years. Who knows?
Yep.
But it doesn't matter. There's a reason that all of us is here. And I mean, even down to the point where some people's reason might be to not be remembered. Their reason might be to have come here and felt just complete isolation, loneliness, and tragedy their entire lives until they were gone. And maybe they did that for all of us. Maybe they loved us more than we could ever imagine because they took that experience on for the
Exactly.
collective. And we all know that it's happening somehow, even though it's not happening to us.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. It's so true.
We could go on and on for days about that. Okay, I want to ask you a weird one. What do you think about, so we've gone from analog everything, which I have this like just this fondness of analog everything, because I grew up through analog everything. Like I used to lay on my mom's waterbed and play like 8-track tapes, you know?
Yeah.
So we've gone from that to digital everything to now AI, which is artificial intelligence. I don't even like to call it AI. I'd like to call it what it is, because it'll keep us remembering, you know, what we're saying. Just like
Right, exactly.
there's certain things we have to call it by what it is. But what is your opinion? Like, obviously, there's always a good side and a bad side to our our evolution. But what's your feel on it? Like, what's your feel on, for instance, somebody taking your image and creating some sort of media with it without your consent?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's scary, because it's like, you know, if we were in a different world, I wouldn't be say that, but it's like with the way that our government is so corrupt, and like invasive, you know, like on one hand, it's like, you know, they can replicate you and, you know, like make up fake information about you so easily. And then, you know, on the other hand, it's like, I don't even know. It's just like, to me, it's scary. You know, it's kind of the opposite way of what I think it should be going, where it's like, I think, you know, machine technology should be freeing us. And, you know, it's
Right.
like I saw this quote earlier today where it was like, um, you know, most people are like working harder than ever while machine like AI is like making poetry and art.
Right.
And it's like we should be being freed by machines, and the way our
Right.
economic system is shaped, it's the opposite's happening. People are losing jobs to automation. Automation should be freeing our time so we
Right.
work less. People should be working less than ever with our productivity levels, but we're working more than ever because, you know, the purchasing power of people is going down by the devaluation of our dollar being expanded. But I think in a lot of ways, you know, the digital movement is beautiful, and the analog um, movement is like kind of expensive. You know, it's like allowed people access to, you know, like a recording studio on a
True.
computer rather than having to go, you know, it's like I can produce my full album without having to spend $10,000 or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's like it's an accessibility thing, which is amazing. And then at the same time, it's like if analog gear was cheaper, it's so much more fulfilling to me to be able to like put my hands on things. And I think, you know, it's kind of like a pendulum. Like I hear from a lot of people oh, like they're missing live instruments, they're missing, you know, like live experiences in general. So especially post COVID, people are like, oh, like I
right.
just want to go do something
Post
um
lockdown,
post lockdown.
post
And
COVID response. That was the
yeah,
whole
exactly.
problem.
Exactly. And so it's like, you know, there's beauty in both. And I think, you know, it's like, how can we harmonize them and, you know, not forget the beauty of analog, and then not get lost in like the purely digital AI landscape,
Right.
you know, and especially in art and music. It's like
Right.
AI art is cool, but it's like it's so much more cool to see a human make something, and it's so much more valuable. And like, and at the same time, it's like it's so much cheaper for a musician to use AI art
Right.
than it is to hire someone to make, you know, a piece of art that like gets forget about really quickly. And they spent $100 to $3,000 or something, and it's like pretty much is like burning money, even though, you know, it means a lot to them, but their music only got 200 plays, and they are, you know, can't afford rent. So it's like,
Well, that's all issues within our consciousness as far as what we value as humankind.
yeah,
I think we've begun to focus so much as a society on being humanity and on being human, you know, this and human that, and even transhumanism, you know, and we've forgotten that originally it was we were all under the umbrella of mankind, which didn't mean gender, it meant our beings. And even just if to go to humankind, we're at least putting the keyword back in. And I
Yep.
think we can all like kind of start to tap more into, like, let's stop being so human about everything and start being humankind again. Because when you're focused on humankind, you're focused on what you have to offer more than you're focused on what you have to gain. And that changes the whole vibration of the whole experience of life. It seems like right now what you were talking about with the technology is that it's more in the hands of people that are visionaries, not on the what do we have to offer as the beauty of these extremely complex beings that we are here, in this plane of demonstration, versus, what can I get from it? What can I get from it? What can I get from it? So the visionaries that are in charge of bringing this out, their vision isn't in alignment with humankind. It's more in alignment with humanity. I don't know if I'm saying it properly, but
know what you're saying,
yeah.
yeah.
So and I agree too on, like, there's definitely the benefits of, you don't have to go into necessarily a recording studio and all that stuff. Like, you've got these things at your fingertips, all the stuff I can do now that I would have never been able to do with, like,
Yep.
expensive, Photoshop programs and all of this.
Yep,
I just do it on
exactly.
a free little app on my phone and just make
Yep,
fun stuff
exactly.
that comes to mind that's creative. And that part is really amazing. As far as like the AI art in and of itself, um, for me personally, I get bored with it in about 10 seconds. Like, I'm
Same.
like, oh, Anita, well, okay, I'm done. Like, I can't, it's like, I could sit there and stare at an Alex Gray painting for probably a good long time. I
Exactly.
had the pleasure of watching him paint one. It's like, that is an experience that's so different than seeing somebody morphing, one face from another face into a plant, into a fractal.
Exactly.
Like, you can see all that if you close your eyes. Close your eyes. Shut everything off for a little while. You'll see it all. You don't have to stick it on a computer screen, for everyone to, ooh. So there's that side of it too. But yeah, I don't know, it's boring for me. And then just the whole idea, I see people taking other people's images and putting it in there, and it's like, wow, if
Yeah.
more than ever, it makes me never want to be like a famous person. Like, I would like to always stay behind the scenes and not be the one that everyone's jumping up and down about. Please jump up and down about
And it's
Ashton here,
happening,
not me.
right? And it's happening to authors now. It's like, well, it's like, first of all, I know a lot of painters and digital art makers, and they're losing income. And I think, their art is so valuable and beautiful, and it's worth saving up for. And then, it's like all these authors, it's non-consensual. We're such a consent culture, and then we're embracing AI where it's like people don't realize the consent is off the table, where authors are having, their entire catalog just, reviewed and then like inspired. I mean, and it's like, that's kind of what humans do anyway. It's like we're all being inspired by everything around us. So it's like,
Right.
on one hand, it's like it's not just a consent topic. It's like it's complicated and multifaceted, but then when exact paragraphs are being stolen, and then people are writing AI books where they're just like, hey, write about this, and then they have a whole book, and then it takes them 3 seconds. And it's like there's so much dialogue that needs to be happening that is being bypassed, and especially in like a world where we're like needing money to pay our bills. It's like there should be some sort of at least framework and guidelines and like boundaries. We talk a lot about that in the spiritual communities, and it's
Right.
like um having no boundaries, like boundless, like spirituality can seem so romantic, but then like the practice of it is like being burnt out. So it's like learning to have structure and balance, and like bringing in that like masculine energy like to AI of like, this shouldn't be allowed, this is okay. It's like this is cool, but like don't forget the arts and like the humans. And I think it's important to also note that like AI is human creation.
Yeah.
It's like it's not technically intelligence yet. It's more of just like a a reference that's like just like condensed into information that's like at your fingertips, but it's not necessarily conscious of itself yet. And we
Right.
haven't quite hit the singularity point. And it's like the AI technology we're using is, more of just like an app, or like, something that references all this information, kind of like Google, and like, gives us like what's at the top of its, iceberg of information, which is pretty cool, and it's like a useful tool. But it's just a
The
tool, and
singularity point is probably Atlantis, the ancient Egyptian civilizations. Think of every civilization that's just gone boop. That was probably the singularity. I mean, because there obviously technology was far greater advanced even than where we are now, and we're just now rediscovering all this. I mean, just look at the hieroglyphs, and I mean, there's evidence all over the planet of that.
yeah, I mean, the Atlantean story is like the perfect warning of like what could happen if we lean too hard in technology and disconnect from nature, which is like, I think, the true technology of the universe.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, I think becoming disconnected from nature, like forest and plants and trees, is like the true problem on Earth. It's like, once I've found personally, like on my own journey, it's like once I'm immersing myself in nature, like I tend to figure out things by myself, and like wisdom starts pouring into me from the environment. Like everything's vibration, and we're like, these energy bubbles, and when we're in certain environments, it's like when you're in war you think certain things, and when you're in a peaceful forest all the time you think a whole other
Right.
type of thing. And if you're on Wall Street you're thinking one thing, and if you're in a forest you're thinking something else. So it's like, how can we bring nature, how can we reconnect back to nature, I think, is like one of my big goals of helping
Right.
people.
Well, you were saying, I mean, I think it's disconnection in general, whether it's nature, whether it's from our higher self, whether it's from other people. When well, like if you look at the Essene Gospels, they were talking in that one about how you can gain more valuable information and more information from this tree here than you ever can from any spiritual book or teaching.
Yeah.
and and that was written, ages ago. That's in like Dead Sea Scrolls scriptures, that was in Aramaic. So that's an ancient teaching that's touching on what you're saying. And then when you think about just like even like more current teachings and teachers like Teal Swan, she talks about how if I can't connect with you and feel what, put myself in your shoes. It's like the old, like even grandmas were telling us that, like walk a mile in their shoes, try on their shoes, try to put yourself in their place.
Exactly.
If we think that there's such a disconnection, that is what allows us to cause harm, because we think we can harm another without it harming us, because we're in an illusion of separation. When
Exactly.
What happens to people who do that? Oh boy, do they end up tormented for the rest of their life? Whether they get caught and punished or not, they're tormented by their own demons for causing harm, because at some point it's going to bubble up in their consciousness that they harmed themselves, because you cannot cause harm to another without harming yourself. Giving
Yeah.
is receiving. You
Yeah.
smile, you received it simultaneously. You tell
Yeah.
somebody F off, you've received that simultaneously. You got that vibration of rejection and whatever it is, aggression, at the same time that you gave it simultaneously. So the minute that we can like connect with that and go, oh well, hello,
Exactly.
like am I, but it doesn't do anything to remedy the fact that there truly are people who are in a state of being currently that they just don't care. They don't care about their own lives or anyone else's. They don't care at all, period. So it only works if your consciousness is evolved enough to actually care. So you have to be in that vibration first. So, you know, maybe that's really what we're shifting more than anything is out of this more like primal, animalistic, me against the world. I don't care. I don't care if what I do ripples forth and impacts things negatively or not. And then also just being able to expand our consciousness to levels of realizing, you know, everybody wants to save the world. Everyone wants to save everyone. I felt that way from the time I was a baby. Like when I was like 5 years old, I wanted to have a store where everything was free. Like I always had this, like, I'm going to help everybody. But it began to shift in me as I became aware of intelligence that's greater than ours, intelligence that's, you know, far more ancient, you know, teachings of like the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and things like this, where you start to go, oh, they're not going to let us destroy the planet.
Yeah.
They're like, if we decide we want to like off ourselves, they're going to be like, well, that sucks, but you know, let them. But we're not going to destroy the planet. The planet is a precious resource, and there's going to be an what do you call it, you know, where the interference, there's going to be an intervention where it's like, you know, let them, you know, set off their biological weapons and, you know, take each other out if they want, but they're not taking the trees, they're not taking the animal kingdom, and they're not taking nature. You know, if they can't even realize that they are not separate from nature, then that's their own downfall. And if they can, then they may make it to the other side. But I finally, at one point in my life, was like unchaining like some shackles off of me where I tried to save everyone forever. And it was like, I don't have to do that. All I have to do is give the world the gift of being, living the love that I am and living. And then, you know, that example will spark people in one way or the other. And none of that's up to me, you know, none of that's up to me.
So true.
Oh, we could have philosophical conversations for like 5 hours.
Right.
All right. Well, you know, we probably shouldn't talk forever. I'll just ask you one last question. As far as music goes, what's your first musical inspiration that like you recall like being young and really realizing like, oh, music is my life, it's for me? And then like what is one that's a prominent influence in your life that may not have been like your, you know, the first inklings of you going, ooh, I'm gonna pay attention?
Yep. So the first one to me that was like monumental. I was into music for a while, but then I heard Incubus.
Oh, okay.
The band Incubus, and his Brandon Boyd's lyrics, and like his art, honestly, like it really changed my life and got me into like this open-mindedness and like quasi spirituality. I wasn't quite spiritual like during middle school and high school, but I was like opening myself to it.
Nice.
And their lyrics, you know, across all their albums are very like open your mind and you know, like think differently. And he has a tattoo of like Om Mani Padme Hum on his forearm that like that's in red. And I was like, what is that? And then I discovered what a mantra was, you know, what Tibetan Buddhism was, all these different things kind of came out of Incubus.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, and then recently, I mean, I feel like I'll say Papadozio. They were such like a fundamental big shift for me and continue to be like this like embodiment of like spirituality and live music while embracing the electronic world. Like they kind of, you know, sparked for me like, oh, like maybe I should like go in this other direction. And you know, they continue to release amazing music. Their most recent album is absolutely incredible. I really recommend Papadozio to anyone. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you'll be playing on a stage with them soon.
Yeah. I hope so. I would love it. I like played with them in 2019. It was one of the best nights of my life.
Nice. Yeah,
Yep.
I can vaguely remember that, but
Yep.
that's amazing. Well,
Yep. Yeah.
thank you so much for
Oh,
just being present, sharing some space and some time and some inspiration with me and with everyone who ends up seeing this. And this has been a beautiful, beautiful highlight to a very cathartic birthday. I officially outlived my mom today.
wow.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Isn't it like it was a weird cathartic thing to start to realize there was like part of me that thought this wasn't going to happen.
I bet. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like I never would have like think that, but I
Yeah.
started to realize like from the depths, like, oh, part of me was like, oh no, that's when you go too. Why?
Right.
Like that makes no sense. But
You made
I
it. You're gonna keep going.
other people told me that that's something that happens, and I was just like, whoa, really tripped me out. But I could feel her being here today, and my grandmother being here today, and just a lot of beautiful spirits and beautiful. Our interdimensional passport is like stamped. Well, I will
Love
be
that.
following, supporting, and sharing, and continuing to support all of your endeavors and celebrating all of your just every amazing experience that you encounter and have. And thank you for sharing it with so many people.
Absolutely. I'm very thankful that we could have this conversation. I feel like this is like the most in-depth conversation we've had. And it's like, oh man, I hope to have more. I'm so glad we got to connect in this way. And thank you so much for having me on. This was incredibly nourishing for me. That's like my word of the day. Um, and yeah, thank you so much. I'm so glad we could connect, and this was awesome.
Thank you. All right, I will let you go, and so many just amazing everythings to you.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.